Polaris just dropped a major bombshell. Is it a brand new sports side-by-side? One that competes with the Pro R? Not even close. So what's the headline here? Starting at only $9,999, this new rig is the Polaris Ranger 500. And it's one of the most affordable, beginner-friendly side-by-sides on the market. Now, we know exactly who and what this rig is built for. The Ranger 500 won't see a trail, it won't see a sand dune, it won't see any baby heads, and it definitely won't see a mud hole. What it will see is a ton of thankless work. It's designed to work endlessly for someone who maybe doesn't have a $40,000 budget to spend on a utility side-by-side. It's no Ranger XP1000, and it definitely won't have any flashy accessories like an enclosed cab or a stereo. 10 grand seems impossible to hit in this market, so what do you actually get for it? Starting with the engine, the Ranger 500 makes power through a single-cylinder ProStar that makes 28 horsepower. That engine is actually just a down-tuned version of the 567cc single that's in the Polaris Ranger SP570. So is this just a rebadged SP570? The word from Polaris is a hard no. The Polaris Ranger 500 is not replacing the Polaris Ranger SP570. While it does share a ton of engine and drivetrain components with the 570, there's a reason for it. The redundancy makes manufacturing and servicing the Ranger 500 dead simple and less expensive. Combined with user-friendly features and non-threatening manners, the Ranger 500 sits well below the $11,499 mark that the Ranger SP570 comes in at. There's also no 4-seat variant for the Ranger 500. Now, we asked Polaris if there will be a 4-seat model coming soon, and they said there is none on the market for now. That with a grain of salt, we're not saying there will be one or there won't be one. There is just currently no available 4-seater. Okay, so who is this rig for? So the Ranger 500 is an entry-level rig for people new to side-by-sides. And there's your other headline. New to side-by-sides. The Ranger 500 is as much about going after the existing market as it is creating a new market. It's meant for people who could really use a utility rig around the homestead or job site, but don't want big, clunky utility rigs tearing up their property. The Ranger 500 is a docile service animal ready to do whatever you need. Okay, so going back to the engine, we get it. 28 horsepower seems underpowered by today's standards. But look at rigs like the Kawasaki Mule and the Kubota RTV. They both make under 30 horsepower and are some of the hardest workers on the market. Don't believe me? Go to any job site and see what the crew are driving. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a Kubota or a Kawasaki. There's another headline for you. The Ranger 500 is taking aim at what Polaris calls the value segment, which used to be Kawasaki and Kubotas alone. It's a growing segment with healthy year-over-year growth. Polaris would be dumb to leave it alone for any longer. Now, a pure utility side-by-side does not need to be quick. It just needs to have the capabilities to keep up with the rigs we mentioned earlier. Let's take a look at those numbers and see how the Ranger 500 compares. So the rear dump bed can hold up to 300 pounds. Impressive, I know. That's accompanied by a 1,500 pound towing capacity via a 2-inch receiver. Okay, we need to talk about this for a second. Any RZR model besides maybe the 200 EFI all have the same bed capacity as the Ranger 500. 300 pounds is absolutely nothing. That's barely enough room to fit one of your buddies, and if he's a corn-fed boy from up north, forget about it. Jokes aside, we really would have loved more from the bed. Polaris Vice President of Product Portfolio, Brandon Kramer, says, similar to all our vehicle designs, we start with the question, what does this customer care about, and what do they need from the vehicle? And the answer? A little bit more than 300 pounds. So what about accessories? Every model comes with a 2,500 pound winch, LED headlights, and an integrated plastic roof. You can also raid their parts catalog for extra accessories like a front windshield, rear panel, and extra lighting. All of those add-ons are plug and play, meaning no annoying installation jobs. This rig rides on 25-inch tires wrapped around 12-inch aluminum alloy wheels. It's kind of impressive that Polaris didn't go straight to Steely's with this rig. Are aluminum wheels needed? Probably not, but they're a welcome addition. There have also been complaints about the Ranger SP570 being way too loud. Polaris actually addressed this and worked to make the cab of the vehicle quieter. What that actually entails, we don't know. It's probably just some extra soundproofing in between the engine and the firewall. I mean, the rig doesn't have an enclosed cab. You're going to get some outside noise. Polaris Ranger 500 comes in one single trim. It's the absolute base model, comes with everything we've talked about, the winch, the roof, the LED lights. So what if you want more? All you have to do is go straight to the Polaris catalog. Like we said earlier, they have all the parts you could ever need to build your perfect Ranger. Okay, now that we got all the specs out of the way, who is this rig for? We believe that this is Polaris's attempt at nudging into a market that they have previously left neglected. That's where the Kubota RTV, the Kawasaki Mule, the John Deere Gator fit in. It's a utility side-by-side for someone who has an acre or two and doesn't want to buy a dedicated farm truck. Simple jobs around the property is the name of the game for this rig. If you need something to haul bags of mulch or sod, this is your girl. Anything else like heavy rock or large hay bales, and you may want to look for something bigger. So that's the rundown on the all-new Polaris Ranger 500. Is this something you'd pick up? Let us know in the comments. Then leave a like on this video and subscribe to our channel. When you're done doing that, head over to utvdriver.com where we have news, reviews, and buyer's guides 5 days a week, including a buyer's guide on this very machine. And when you're done doing all that, head over to our socials. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok 7 days a week. We will see you there.